The security guard hovered awkwardly while I boxed up my belongings. "I'm really sorry about this, Miss Parker," he muttered, shifting his weight like he wished he were anywhere else. "Ms. Catherine said we had to be present." I wrapped my computer science degree in tissue and set it gently in the box, keeping my face calm and steady. "It's all right, Joe. I know you're just doing your job." Of course Catherine would orchestrate this to be as public and embarrassing as possible. That was her style. "My name is Samantha Parker. I'm 34, and today I was officially pushed out of the technology company I founded." Parker Tech had started with one laptop in a garage and had grown into a cybersecurity firm with 200 employees and a valuation in the multi-millions. And I lost it because I trusted the wrong person. My sister. "Don't forget your access card," Catherine's voice floated from the doorway. She stood there polished and immaculate, her suit perfectly tailored, her hair arranged like a magazine cover. Every inch the corporate attorney she was trained to be. "We can't risk any unauthorized system access." If only she knew how deeply I understood those systems. I removed my badge and held it out. "Anything else you'd like to oversee personally?" Her smile tightened. "Just ensuring everything is handled properly. The board is enthusiastic about the new direction." The board she'd slowly replaced over a year with her own colleagues and connections, while I was busy developing our groundbreaking encryption platform. "You won't be able to run the company," I said quietly. "You don't understand how the technology actually works." "That's what employees are for," she said, dismissing me with a shrug. "I understand something more important, revenue. You never seemed to grasp that while you were busy chasing research dreams." She wasn't wrong. I had funneled nearly everything into our new quantum-resistant encryption protocol. It was close to completion, close, but not public yet. I lifted the box to leave. Her voice followed me like a closing door. "And Sam, Dad asked me to remind you his offer is still open. The firm could always use another attorney." She knew exactly how that would land. She always did. That night, my apartment glowed with the light of 3 monitors showing strings of code. My phone vibrated. A message from David Chin, my lead developer. "Meeting tomorrow. Off-site. Everyone loyal is coming." Good. I opened my personal laptop, not the company-issued one I turned in, and began typing. Because deep in Parker Tech's source code, woven into the heart of the encryption framework, was something only I knew existed. A design gap. Not a flaw, not a bug, a fuse. One that only I could disarm when the time came. Another message appeared, this one from Marcus, head of operations. "K just introduced new leadership. All lawyers. Killing research next week." Exactly as expected. Catherine believed R&D drained money. She didn't realize it was the engine that made the company worth anything at all. She'd replace innovation with lawsuits and licensing fees. Stagnation disguised as strategy. I typed back. "Stay the course. Document everything." The next morning, I walked into a small coffee shop where 20 familiar faces waited, engineers, cryptographers, architects, the real architects of Parker Tech. I took a breath. "First, thank you for being here. I know Catherine has been threatening non-competes. They won't hold." Lisa, our former HR director, who had resigned the same day I was ousted, spoke up. "Not after what we've documented about how she sees the company." I nodded. "And that's where we begin." "That's not what we're here to discuss," I said. David flipped open his laptop, bringing up several organized code repositories. "Everything we've developed this past year, the quantum-resistant encryption suite, the neural security architecture, all of it has been backed up, versioned, and logged," he said. "With clear authorship on every line." Tom, one of our senior engineers, frowned. "But the company still owns the intellectual property." Catherine locked that down legally. I let a small smile form. They own what they think is a completed product. What they actually have is a version that fails under real-world deployment. A subtle vulnerability that only shows up once you try to scale the system. Recognition swept the room. Mark, who led quality assurance, let out a low breath. So the real, stable build, the actual finished version, never got pushed to their servers. Right, I said. Catherine spent a year maneuvering for control. I spent that same year preparing for the day she got it. I set a folder on the table, new incorporation papers. Quantum Security Solutions is officially registered and funded. We're independent. We're lean. And we're about to outpace every competitor in the industry. Who's coming with me? Every hand rose immediately. The next several weeks passed in quiet, disciplined motion. We set up our new infrastructure, coded late nights, built systems from scratch while keeping a careful eye on Parker Tech. Meanwhile, Catherine brought in lawyers to run technical teams, shifted priorities from innovation to lawsuits and licensing battles. The headlines praised her. Parker Tech announces bold strategic realignment. Investors cheered. Profits were promised. Stocks ticked upward. Then the moment arrived. Sam, David called from across our small new workspace. They're rolling out the ION protocol for their first enterprise client. I watched over his shoulder as Parker Tech's internal systems started spitting errors like confetti. The engineered vulnerability, precise, invisible, devastating, activated exactly on cue. My phone lit up, a message from Lisa, who still had contacts inside. Total meltdown. Certificates failing. Servers locking out clients. Catherine is in full panic. I didn't need a camera to visualize it. Catherine cornered in a glass conference room, perfect composure fracturing, clients furious, board members demanding answers. She blamed everyone but herself. 3 hours later, my phone rang. I didn't answer. I listened to the voicemail instead, her voice strained, shaking beneath forced calm. Samantha, if you had anything to do with this, the board is threatening legal action and our largest client is considering criminal liability. Fix it. Do something. I waited 1 more hour. Just long enough for the headlines to hit. Parker Tech encryption failure disrupts major client launch. The stock slide had already begun when I finally called her back. She answered instantly. What did you do? She snapped. I'm not involved with your systems anymore, I said evenly. I've been busy. Launching my company. How's the protocol working? Stop. Her voice was tight, desperate. Everything is collapsing. The code is defective. Of course it is, I replied. You took a beta build. The actual stable implementation, the version that works, is proprietary to Quantum Security Solutions. Silence. Sharp. Cold. You were so focused on contracts and board votes, I continued, that you never noticed the development logs, the documentation, the time-stamped commits. The completed fixes were created after you forced me out. Independently. Legally. With witness verification. That can't be, she breathed. The company owns all the IP. The company owns everything that was on its servers the day you seized control. The functional version? The version the market actually needs? That's ours. And we have proof. Audits. Blockchain signatures. Full chain of custody documentation. Signed by the entire core development team. I could hear her calculating, frantically, for an escape clause. The non-compete, she started. Those agreements are unenforceable because the takeover wasn't legitimate, I said. Your own tactics voided them. You may want to get legal advice on that. Although, considering your profession, you already know. Later that afternoon, Parker Tech's board assembled in crisis. Catherine tried to frame the collapse as sabotage, blamed former staff, pointed fingers in every direction. But the documentation was undeniable. The version of the encryption system they were using was incomplete. The functioning version, the one the market required, existed only with us. And without it, their entire business plan disintegrated. The following week was chaos. Clients withdrew. Contracts dissolved. The stock dropped so sharply that analysts called it a freefall. The board members Catherine had handpicked realized quickly that their legal expertise was useless in a technical implosion. Then the call I'd been expecting came. "Ms. Parker," said James Martinez, the company's largest investor, his tone strained. "We need to discuss purchasing quantum security solutions." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "I'm not selling." "Name a number," he pushed. "Parker Tech needs those updates." "No," I said. "What Parker Tech needs is leadership that understands innovation. Not litigation." Silence. Long, heavy. "You want control back?" "Yes. On my terms. I oversee all technology decisions. The board gets competent technologists, not just legal acquaintances." And Catherine steps down. 2 weeks of negotiations followed. The board had no leverage. Without the working protocol, their valuation was dust. So they agreed. When I returned to Parker Tech headquarters, Catherine was waiting. The confident composure she'd always maintained was gone. She looked exhausted, ironed edges undone. "You orchestrated this," she said flatly. "You planned it from the beginning." "I learned from you," I replied. "You taught me how to prepare for every possible outcome. I just applied that lesson differently." She let out a thin, humorless laugh. "Dad always said you'd make a formidable attorney." "Maybe. But I'd rather create something than dismantle it." In the months that followed, Parker Tech and Quantum Security Solutions merged under one structure. We rehired the people who mattered. We finished the encryption protocol correctly. And the company became stronger than it had ever been. Catherine moved across the country and took a position at a large corporate law firm. We didn't speak, not really, but the day our encryption technology won a major global award, she sent a message. "You were right. And I was wrong." My diploma went back on the wall. This time, surrounded by patents, recognition, proof of what innovation looks like when it isn't sabotaged. I kept a printed copy of the flawed encryption code, the one containing the vulnerability, framed on my shelf. Not out of spite, but as a reminder. Protection is sometimes found in what you withhold, not what you give away. And real victory isn't about defeating someone. It's about building something they can't break. 1 year after Catherine tried to take everything, I stood in a new research lab, our lab, watching my team work on the next frontier. Our quantum encryption system had already reshaped the cybersecurity field. But the greater achievement was this. The attempt to tear me down forced me to grow stronger, sharper, and more deliberate than I had ever been. In technology, power doesn't come from contracts or ownership papers. It comes from understanding how things work. And making things work, that has always been my strength.